What's up, YouTube? Boy, back once again with another sport topic, and today we're going to talk some football, Houston Texans football. Today we're going to talk about the Houston Texans probably, most likely, have the best secondary in the entire NFL, and we're going to talk about how good that secondary really is. We're going to break it down. Before we get in there, like we tell you before, if you're liking the content, make sure you're liking the channel. Make sure you're watching all the videos, you comment all the videos, you liking all the videos, you sharing all the videos on all social media platforms, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, Snapchat, any type of social media platform you use. Make sure you share on them same social media platforms. Also, follow me on social media as well. The link in the description below. We still trying to get this channel growing and growing and growing. And I can't do that without y'all help. So you know what that means? I need y'all to do y'all parts. That means I need you to tell a friend, so they could 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 tell some more friends and put them on game with the channel. Really, really appreciate that. We're trying to get this channel growing and growing and growing. I can't do without your help. So I really, really appreciate that. Now, let's talk about it. The best secondary in the entire NFL, otherwise known as Clamp City. Shout out to that boy Big B for the brand new nickname, because that's exactly what they're doing ahead. They be putting the clamps on these opposing receivers. They give these quarterbacks zero margin for error. They can't make no mistakes. They give these receivers zero rooms to make plays, to run their routes, to do anything out here, especially inside that stadium, especially in Houston, especially in NRG Stadium. They can't make no plays because these cornerbacks, this secondary, puts the absolute clamps on the opposing receivers. You don't believe me? I have the numbers to back it up. And they are headlined by who I believe is the best cornerback in the entire NFL, and that's Stingley Jr., otherwise known as All-Pro Sting, who was just rewarded this past week with getting rewarded the highest paid contract for a cornerback in NFL history. 3 years, $90 million, $30 million per year, $89 million guaranteed, eclipsing J.C. Horn, who was the previous holder at $25 million a year, got $5 million more than him. He just got his contract a week or two ago, and in less than a week, Stingley eclipsed that by $5 million. Well deserved. Like I said, it's a 3-year, $90 million extension. It's a 3-year extension on top of his rookie deal. He already had 2 years left. He has this season, and then he has his 5th-year option next year. So he's on the contract for the next 5 years. And again, being the highest paid corner and well deserved. I know that Pat Surtain won Defensive Player of the Year last year. But hey, Stingley, in my opinion, was the best cornerback in football, especially down the stretch. I think he was the best cornerback in football throughout the entirety of the season, but especially down the stretch and in key moments. You know, the game against Tyreek Hill when he got the 2 interceptions in that game, and the interception to close it out. Those 2 interceptions on back-to-back crucial drives. He was out there the absolute best cornerback, and he makes the secondary. He makes the secondary one of the best secondaries, if not the best secondary in the NFL. But it's not just him, because this secondary has players all the way around it. And then Nick Caserio had the audacity to go out there and add C.J. Gardner-Johnson, add to the mix, which makes this secondary explosively talented. This makes the secondary just one of, like I said, if not one of, the absolute best secondary in the entire NFL. If you don't believe me, let's look at some of these numbers. Like I said, Darius Stingley last year, 5 interceptions, 18 pass deflections. Other side, Kamari Lassiter, rookie Kamari Lassiter at that, 3 interceptions, 10 pass deflections. Another rookie, Kalen Bullock, 5 interceptions, 11 pass deflections. And like I said, then you add C.J. Gardner-Johnson, he had 6 interceptions and 12 pass deflections. So you have your starting corners getting 8 interceptions total, 5 and 3. And then now your safeties, one has 5 and the other one has 6. So 11 interceptions just off of your safeties. Come on. Like that's just that's absurd. And then also, do you know that Stingley allowed the lowest passer rating thrown in his direction at 50.5? So that means when quarterbacks were throwing in his direction, those quarterbacks had the lowest passer rating thrown in his direction at 50.5. And then on the opposite side, okay, well, I'm going to just throw to the other side then. Kamari Lassiter was third at 58.6. So your 2 corners gave up the worst and the third worst, allowed the worst and the third worst passer rating in the entire NFL. And I mean that in a good way, not like they gave up the high passer rating. No, they gave up the lowest. One gave up the lowest passer rating in the NFL, and the other one gave up the third lowest passer rating. So you telling me that out of all the DBs in the NFL, top 5 lowest passer rating thrown in their direction, your cornerbacks is 1 and 3? Let that sink in. Your cornerbacks are 1 and 3 thrown in the direction. Now, let's talk about what the secondary is doing at the total. So they were the number 1 pass defense at home, only allowing 177 yards per game. Now away they allow 220, but inside NRG allow 177. They only allow 16 completions a game, 16.3 completions a game. So that means quarterbacks only completed like 16 passes on average in Houston. Now on the road they allow 20.9 completions a game. Those completion percentages is 53%. They allowed a 53% completion percentage. Of course, the quarterbacks throwing their passes. I mean, quarterbacks only completed 53% of their passes against them in NRG. Now, on the road, they completed 62. That's around average. So 62 is around average. But so you're telling me that 9 points below average in NRG Stadium is what they allow from a completion percentage standpoint. Quarterback rating. At home, they only allow a 63.8 quarterback rating. Quarterback rating against them inside NRG was 63.8. Now on the road, it was 95. They allowed a 95 passer rating on the road. But inside NRG Stadium, it was 63.8. Now let's look at some of their top performances at NRG Stadium against Josh Allen. Josh Allen was 9 of 30, 30%, 131 yards, one touchdown, no interception. That one touchdown came off that 49-yard with Kamari Lassiter bit on the double move and got beat for a 49-yard touchdown. But other than that, Josh Allen, who was the MVP, by the way, was 9 to 30, 30%, only had 131 yards. Jared Goff was 15 to 30, 50%, 240 yards, two touchdowns, five interceptions. He threw five interceptions in that game. Tua was 29 of 40 for 72.5 completion percentage. So I mean, that's a good completion percentage, 72.5. But he only had 196 yards, one touchdown, three interceptions. Interception ended the game because he had those two interceptions on back-to-back drives, throwing to Derek Stingley, and the one ended the game. But even though he did have a high completion percentage at 72.5%, his yards per attempt was only 4.9. So less than 5 yards per attempt, which shows that he was just doing little dumps and little screens. So of course you're going to complete a lot of percent of your passes. You're just throwing right here. I'm just throwing right here. I'm just throwing here. Like it's quick passes. It's easy completions. I'm not pushing the ball downfield. I'm not throwing in a direction. Now, Lamar Jackson was 10 to 15 for 65%, 65%. Had a quarterback rating, of I don't have his quarterback rating, but had, yards of 168, two touchdowns, no interception. Lamar Jackson, I've been saying is I think he's like the Texans' Achilles heel. He's the arch nemesis to the Texans in total. The Texans have yet to beat Lamar Jackson. No matter who's the quarterback, no matter who's the head coach, we have not been able to beat Lamar Jackson regular season, playoffs, nothing like that. So Lamar Jackson he's like the Texas kryptonite, if you will. So Lamar Jackson was able to play well inside NRG Stadium. Now in the playoff game, Justin Herbert, 14 to 32, 43.8 completion percentage. A 43.8 completion percentage. 242 yards, one touchdown that came on that long touchdown to McConkley. Well, Kamari Lassiter was right there. He just missed time the interception because it would have been an interception, but it ended up being a touchdown. Justin Herbert threw four interceptions. Justin Herbert threw three interceptions throughout the entirety of the season. He threw four interceptions in that game against the Houston Texans in the playoffs. And also, then you go back and you look at against the Kansas City Chiefs, the only receiver that caught a pass in that playoff game, the divisional round, was Xavier Worthy. He only he caught one on Eric Murray, and I think the other one was on Miles Bryant. Patrick Mahomes did not target Kamari Lassiter, Kalen Bullock, or Derek Stingley the entirety of the game. Now, they won the game. Now, ran free because we didn't have any linebackers to cover, and that's also dealing with Jalen Petrie not being available. And again, also not having Gardner Johnson. Again, we added Gardner Johnson, so I do think that helps out a lot, especially also, like I say, when Jalen Petrie comes back. But again, Patrick Mahomes, two-time league MVP, three-time Super Bowl champion, three-time Super Bowl MVP. Did not want to throw in Derek Stingley or Kamari Lassiter's direction. And Kamari Lassiter's a rookie. Like I said, they gave up the top three lowest passer rating thrown in their direction. Stingley was number one. Kamari Lassiter was number three. This is a very, very dangerous secondary. Not to mention they two pass rushers to put pressure on the quarterback. You got Will Anderson and Daniil Hunter, two guys, they're double-digit sack guys. So you got two guys coming off the edges with double-digit sacks, putting that pressure on the quarterback, making the quarterback get the football out quick. And then you got so these guys don't have to cover long. And you got four guys in your secondary that's known to get the football. You know, like I said about Gardner Johnson. Gardner Johnson has gotten 12 interceptions in the last 3 years. In one of those years, he's only played 2 games. So he has 12 interceptions in basically 2 seasons. He had 6 last year. The year before, he only played, I think, like 2 games with the Lions, and they played the playoffs. And then the other previous year, he had 6 interceptions, both of them with the Philadelphia Eagles. And he's also has played the Super Bowl. His last 3 seasons have been Super Bowl, AFC Championship game with the Lions. He played 1 year with the Lions, and then this past year won the Super Bowl with the Philadelphia Eagles. So his last 3 years, he's been at the very least a conference championship game. He's been to a Super Bowl and lost it, been to an NC championship game, lost it, went all the way and won the Super Bowl. So he does bring that type of pedigree. And again, also a guy who gets his hands on the football and is able to take the football away. Not to mention, like I said, you have Derek Stingley, who the last 2 years has gotten 5 interceptions in both seasons. In the previous year, he only played half the season. Those 5 interceptions he got in 2023 came at the end of the season. It came in November and December. Mostly in December. I think he only had 1 interception in November. And I think the other 4 came in December. That's what we're talking about. That's the type of players we have. And in this past season, still had 5 interceptions. He said himself that he had 7 interceptions total because he counted his 2 interceptions he got in the playoffs. That he also could have had possibly 20. Now I don't think it would have been 20, but he did drop some interceptions. And again, him and Kamari Lassiter both was able to take the football away in the playoffs as well, not just in the regular season. Kamari Lassiter had an interception in the playoffs. Derek Stingley had 2 interceptions in the playoffs. Like, these guys take the football away. They are a very aggressive defense, and they could be aggressive because of that pass rush. Like I said, with Will and Daniil Hunter, they're able to get to the quarterback, so the quarterback has to get the football out quick. And now the quarterback is like, dang, I'm danged if I do and danged if I don't, because they got Kamari on one side, they got Stingley on the other side. Because most times when a team has one good corner, has a great corner, I'm going to just throw in the opposite direction. I'm not going to throw to Derek Stingley. I'm going to just throw over here. But, like Kamari Lassiter, he has 3 interceptions. Kamari Lassiter, he has 10 pass deflections. Caleb Bullock has 5 interceptions. He has 11 pass deflections. Now we added C.J. Gardner Johnson. He has 12. He has 6 interceptions. He has 12 pass deflections. So I might as well go over here, because more than likely Stingley is going to cover the number 1 receiver. That's the reason why I think Stingley is the best receiver, best cornerback in football, because he has the one elite trait that a lot of cornerbacks don't want to do. He goes over, he eliminates the opposing team's number 1 receiver. He makes that number 1 receiver non-existent. Just like in the Miami Dolphins game, Tyreek Hill. I know Tyreek Hill didn't have a good season this year, but he's still their number 1 receiver. Tua still trust him. And in 2 crucial moments, Tua in the red zone throwing to Tyreek Hill, Stingley comes up with the interception. And again, last drive of the game, we gotta have it. I'm trying to make a play, and I have Tua open. I'm throwing. Tua goes up and catch the football. But Derek Stingley rips it out and walks away with it. And the game is over. Also, quarterbacks are going to learn that when Stingley's in that trail position, don't throw that football right there. You throw the football where it's supposed to be at. That football is Stingley's when Stingley's in that trail position. Your best bet is to overthrow your receiver and hope that your receiver can make the play. Because sometimes quarterbacks have to, sometimes quarterbacks have to throw the football behind the receiver, because if I throw it behind the receiver, either my receiver catches it or it's an incompletion. Because if I throw it where it's supposed to, that DB is right there. That DB might be able to come up with the football. In this situation with Stingley, when Stingley's in that trail position, if you throw the football where it's supposed to be at, Stingley more than likely is going to come up with that football, and there's a better chance that Stingley comes up with that football than your receiver. So your best bet is to overthrow the receiver, and either it's an overthrow or your receiver can stretch out and make a play on the football, because you got to get that football furthest away as you can from 24. And you're like, okay, well, why don't you just throw to the other side? Well, Kamari Lassiter is just that good. So Kamari Lassiter is just that good of a corner. And unless you a team like the Philadelphia Eagles that has Smithy as their number 2 receiver, or you the Bengals, T Higgins as your second receiver, or if you Miami, you got Jalen Waddle as your second receiver. So unless you one of those teams that you have one of those type of receivers as your second receiver, then you could go, okay, I'm gonna try to trust T Higgins. Maybe T Higgins can make a play on Lassiter, or Smitty can make a play on Lassiter, or Waddle can make a play on Lassiter. But if you these other teams, your best bet is to, like, if you Dallas, as of right now, Dallas ain't got no other receiver, so you might as well go to a target CeeDee Lamb. You the Jags, you might as well target Brian Thomas Jr. You the Giants, you might as well target Malik Neighbors. Unless you want these teams that your second receiver is that type of receiver that, hey, I trust my second receiver can make plays. If not, I might as well throw to my number 1 receiver and hope that my number 1 receiver can make a play on this football. Because if I throw it to the second receiver, more than likely that Kamari Lassiter is better than that second receiver. So I might as well try my luck and hope that my best receiver can make a play on their best quarterback. And that's just benefits and helps out Darren Stingley. Because a lot of times quarterbacks in Darren Stingley's position, they don't get targeted like that. Remember all those years in Oakland, they didn't target Namdi? All those years in Denver, they didn't target Champ? When there's an elite cornerback on the other side, they don't talk, especially if they're moving around. If they move around, unlike now, if they don't move around, if they play one side, this is actually easy. It's easy not to throw to them. I'm just they only stay on one side. They don't move around with the quarterback or move around with the receiver. I know where you at. I'm just gonna take my number 1 receiver and I'm gonna move my number 1 receiver to the left, or I'm gonna move my number 1 receiver to the right, or I'm gonna move my number 1 receiver in the slot, just to get them away from that cornerback. You can't do that when you're playing against the Houston Texans, because one Stingley gonna follow your number 1 receiver. Then you got Kamari Lassiter. Then the safety positions, you got Kalen Bullock. In the other safety position, now you got Gardner Johnson, which was a absolute must pick up. And I'm absolutely glad that Nick Caserio went out there and made that move, because I thought that we possibly would go safety in the draft, because you needed another safety. Again, Jalen Petrie, you use him in the you utilize him in that star position, in that nickel position. You don't need him to be out there playing safety. You need him out there playing that nickel position, because we seen in 2023 when he was covering downfield, he gave up a lot of big plays. He was more so a liability. So you put him in the position that he actually thriving in right now. I know he got hurt, and that's part of the reason why you was able to gave up some of yards against Kelsey against the Chiefs in that playoff game, because you didn't have a Jalen Petrie and you didn't have a coverage linebacker to able to neutralize and take away Kelsey. Now you add J.C. Gardner-Johnson in the mix. This team here, this secondary here, is absolutely putting the clamps on these opposing receivers. They actually are. They are making sure that these receivers don't have no room to make any type of plays. And like I said, these quarterbacks got to be on their A game. They can't make no mistake. They're going to have to do what Kansas City was doing. And I'm just not throwing to them. I got to get creative and not throwing to them. Now, they got to find a way to get to Lamar Jackson, because it seems like Lamar Jackson is the only quarterback that can make plays in NRG Stadium, outside NRG Stadium. No matter what Lamar Jackson is, it seems like Lamar Jackson is able to make plays on this team. So we got to get that straight. But when you look at the MVP of the league, 9-30, Tua, all these good completions, but threw 3 interceptions. The Lions and Jared Goff, I know they ended up getting the win, but still 50%, 5 interceptions. Justin Herbert only threw 3 interceptions throughout the entirety of the season. Threw 4 against you in a playoff game and only threw 43.8%. This is the best secondary in the NFL. And like I said, Nick Caserio added to it by bringing in Gardner Johnson. Again, putting the absolute clamps on these opposing receivers and making these quarterbacks have to work way harder to do anything right, and probably still can't do anything, because this secondary is like that for real. This secondary is like that for real. And the crazy and the scary thing about it, we actually haven't seen these guys play at their best yet. Kamari, Lassiter, and Kalen Bullock were rookies. We haven't seen them with Gardner Johnson yet. And Stingley, this is just the tip of the iceberg with Stingley being that type of guy. This is the tip of the iceberg. We're going to see this secondary play, I feel like, absolute crazy this year. And then also, like I said, with Will and Neil getting in their bags, and again, Will's just getting his self going as being one of those type of pass rushers. Quarterbacks are not going to have enough time to sit in the pocket. They got to make quick throws, and hey, bad decisions, rushing the ball, getting the football out quick, rushing they pass, making some bad decisions. With these four guys that have all shown you that they can get the football and put it in our offense hands, and they can take the football away, that just doesn't bode well, like I said, for the opposing receivers or the opposing quarterbacks. Like, share, subscribe if you haven't, comment below if you haven't, clicked that bell, get more videos. I holla.